Hello everyone, my name is Ka'ohu. I'm the sales engineer for the Sage Construction Real Estate team. And today on with us is Vincent Pate. He'll be going over some new features added to the most recent update with Sage Paperless Construction and how they can benefit your business. And with that, I'll hand it on over to Vincent.
Thank you, Ka'ohu. Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to have a little bit different presentation than we normally put over with Sage Paperless, specifically because we have a new version that just came out last month, and I wanted to go over what the new features are that came out with Sage Paperless Construction 6.3. I'm sure some of you are already Sage Paperless users, while some of you are looking to see what products are out there and wanted to take a look at this. So I'll make this kind of a generic in both senses, hit on some of the things for people who are already using this and how they can take advantage. And for those of you looking, well, you can take advantage of all this stuff that we're talking about today. So with that, Sage Paperless Construction, just as a most general term, is going to be a Sage 100 contractor or Sage 300 CRE module that allows you to basically do all of your AP invoice routing and approval, but also document storage. It's a full enterprise content management system for those who are not familiar with it. And we can do a whole lot of things. Now, with this, the top things we're going to be talking about today are what came out just recently, and those are going to be things like the Dropbox integration, DocuSign integration, external routing to DocRoute, and our OCR product. So just a little bit of information about these different pieces here before we get into a demonstration of how they work within the system. The two top ones are actually just add-ons that anyone using Sage Paperless Construction can take advantage of immediately just by upgrading to 6.3. The first part is the Dropbox integration. So historically, all of our, we've been allowed to automatically manage and look at a folder or two or three or four, however many you want, but you can always look at a folder on your computer or on a network to automatically bring documents into Paperless so that you can, save stuff very quickly. Now, the Dropbox integration expands that to working with, of course, Dropbox, a cloud-based storage utility. If you have people in the field that want to drop documents into it and have those automatically sync into Paperless, you now can do so with 6.3. And I'll show you how we set that up in here if you are a Dropbox user. And Dropbox is typically free unless you add a bunch of extra gigabytes to the mix. So for anyone who wants to start using this immediately or even just test it out, feel free to do so. It's quick and easy to do. Now, the DocuSign is something we've added into our software, again, as a general functionality of it in the DocRoute module. Now, DocuSign is required. We don't we don't sell DocuSign ourselves, but DocuSign is something you can easily add to your repertoire of softwares out there. And now with our integration, you can have any document that you're writing around for approval in Paperless. Let's use an example of a subcontract change order. And that subcontract change order can now be uploaded into DocuSign directly from Paperless. It will then get the signatures. It'll send it around for writing for its own signature capture in DocuSign itself. And then when it's done, it'll send it back into Paperless with the annotations that were added from DocuSign. We'll keep a snapshot of the document before and after it was sent up, and we'll also keep a full audit log of everything. So DocuSign integration being the second of the two main add-ons that just come with the 6.3 of Sage Paperless. Now, the other two down below, these are additional modules that came out at the same time. So you do have to be on 6.3 to use either of these, but they are additional modules. And if you're curious about getting pricing and things like that, you can contact Ka'ohu, your CAM, or your favorite sales rep, and they can get you pricing for either of these two other pieces later on. But with the 6.3, what we've added is the historically on-premise DocRoute module. We've added a cloud piece to it. Now, it does a bit more than just extend functionality into the cloud. It actually takes what would normally have been an in-house thing only, doc routing documents internally to your different people to view them, and allows you to bring external people into it as well. That means you can allow for your subcontractors to be routed a subcontract, and they can view it through a web portal, add any additional documents that you might request of them, and they can actually give an official approval right through the sign. It's not a signature. That's handled through DocuSign, but if you want to get them to where they're giving an approval stamp, so to speak, I would say easily auditable, easily traceable, easily brought up if you're ever in a litigation piece to say, I gave them explicit access, they logged in with their login that is explicit to just their account, they viewed the document, they pressed the approve button, we've got that all on record. You can now do that with the doc route, with the external piece here. And it also works for internal employees as well as being able to send it to things like vendors to ask them to upload documents, or in just another place for people that you work with, maybe a subcontractor that you've got working with you for the next year on a major project. They can just start uploading documents to you through that site and have those automatically sent to you to verify. And of course, the Flexi Capture OCR is probably our biggest change to the paperless world. Well, probably since Paperless came out many, many years ago. This is a new module that we've brought in that handles automation of document capture. Now, standard out of the box, we're talking about AP invoices, where it's going to bring in invoices, read the header footer. Later on, when the version 7 comes out this summer, we'll even do a line item distribution level with this. But we're grabbing all of the information from the invoice, reading it, scanning it, and putting it into Paperless to be routed around for approval already coded. Now, it does a lot more than that, as we'll go through in our demonstration today, but that is our brand new OCR technology for reading documents. And by the way, I didn't mention this in the beginning housekeeping items, but if you do have any questions, feel free to toss them into chat Q&A. Kahu will be managing those and answering questions as he can. And anything he doesn't answer, we'll get to at the end as well. So we'll answer those questions as they come up. So I'm going to flip back over to Paperless, and we're going to go ahead and go through just kind of in the order I mentioned there a second ago. So starting with Dropbox integration. If you're not aware, you go to Dropbox.com and get a Dropbox account. And once you do, in Paperless, we have a capture section here in the ribbon toolbar. So if those are familiar with Paperless, know that we've got the different sections up here. Now, what a lot of people, even people using Paperless for a long time, don't necessarily realize is we have an importer. Oh, I have a fifth thing I'm going to show you here in just a minute, too. This importer has been around for quite a long time, and what it's designed to do is automate importing in documents into Paperless. Historically, we've always had this pulling up to where I can import in from a folder. So I'd say folder watch, and that folder watch would say, oh, I'm watching from a folder on my network, and as documents get put into that folder, bring them into Paperless. Well, now we've got Dropbox. I can say my source, instead of being a folder or an FTP site, is a Dropbox account. And then I can put in, and I have to manage, I set this up on my other database, so I believe I set this up under my work email address. Let's make sure I did. And we'll grant access. So now I can connect to Dropbox on here. So as I bring this up, it's bringing this over, and I'm going to go ahead and log in here. And if I can remember my username and password, this will be much easier to work with. Let me try to sign in with Google. Maybe that's, yeah, it's my personal account. I have this set too. But in any case, I'll go ahead and do just that. So as I connect this over, Paperless is coming in and asking for access to my Dropbox account. This then connects to my Dropbox piece, and as it comes in, it's going to then ask me which folder is it in Dropbox that I want it to monitor. So this folder monitoring, and I'll bring this up here as we come in. After this has been granted access, I can then bring that over, and now we can monitor a folder in Dropbox and specifically say which folder it is, and that will then start bringing in the information automatically. And what we can do with anything that is found, we can have it automatically delete it from your Dropbox, or we can just move it to another folder in Dropbox as well. So if you prefer to keep things in there just a little longer, just to be sure that you got everything you needed from them, you can archive. So this is a new piece that you can add just by going in and putting this piece into 6.3. By the way, there's something else here, and I didn't mention this earlier, but it's absolutely huge game changer for any Sage 300 CRE users out there. We've added in conjunction with being on version 17 of Sage 300, we've added a My Assistant integration. This integration does require a tiny bit of consulting work to get it up and running. So if you are interested in getting this going, again, you have to be on version 17 and have My Assistant. But you feel free to reach out to me, Vincent Pate, and I'll give you my email address at the end, and I'll get you in touch with getting this set up for you. Long way to say, we now have the ability to take anything that My Assistant prints, whether that's direct deposits, payroll checks, your AP checks, purchase orders, change orders, batch reports, anything My Assistant can print out, we can automatically have it save into Paperless. So as soon as you do your check run, My Assistant sends that documentation into Paperless and automatically puts in your direct deposits into our system. So I last week went ahead and ran my payroll check register, and literally every check automatically saves in with all the metadata tagged in for searching capabilities later on. AP checks, you name it. Whatever documents you want to run out of Sage on whatever timely basis you want and have them automatically save into Paperless, we can now do. So it's a very big change for anyone who's historically had to manually type those in one by one. We can just now have the whole thing automated, saving hours per week, depending upon what you're using it for. So again, I'll give you my email address at the end. If you're interested in having that added, please just let me know and I'll walk you through that process. So back to the actual list at hand, though, DocuSign integration is our next piece. Now, with this, I don't have DocuSign installed on my computer, but if you're a user of DocuSign, the next screen that we are going to show is identical to what you're used to today. Here's how DocuSign integration works. I've got a document, whatever it is. This happens to be a purchase order I pulled up here, but it could be a subcontract. It could be a subcontract change order. It could be anything. Now, with this, in our doc route system today, you can have automatically, when you save in a change order, get routed around to approval. So your PMs can get it. You can get your sent into the PM assistant. You can have whoever look at these documents. Well, now, with the 6.3, we have an option that says route, and you now have this big DocuSign button right here. And what that allows me to do is instead of just sending the document to another person in my office for routing, I can hit the plus and actually add an email address on here. So if I wanted to send this to, let's say, Dustin Howell at sage.com, I can add his email address to here. And of course, find. He wasn't in the system. I hit a find button. But Dustin Howell at sage.com, Howell right there. And I can now have an email address work into the system. Now, there's two things I'm going to be hitting on here in a second. But right now, we're talking about DocuSign. So what this does is when I hit route, this will take this document that I've got here, launch it into DocuSign. So it'll connect to my DocuSign account and bring up DocuSign. And if you're using DocuSign already, you'll be familiar with the screen. It's the DocuSign screen. It'll ask you to put your signatures, date stamps, time stamps, your initial sections. You build it to the document that you've got there. DocuSign sends it from there to the people that you want, and you can have multiple people on here. It doesn't have to be just one. They get their signatures. It comes back, and we'll take a snapshot of the image beforehand, and we'll include as well the new one with the signatures and the full audit trail from DocuSign. By the way, if you're not familiar with the snapshot feature that we have here in Paperless, any document can easily track revisions. all you got to do is on one of these tabs here, right here, view snapshots. You can take snapshots of images of your document whenever you make changes, so that if you ever need to roll back to a previous version, you can. The DocuSign piece just takes advantage of that and automatically takes a snapshot for you when you use it. So again, those are two features that come right with 6.3. Now, one other thing to add to this is I mentioned we also have DocRoute in the cloud, and that it does external users. So now, say I wanted to send this purchase order to Dustin for approval, I can actually do that now. I could say approve this PO, and I can now have any person, subcontractors, I can have vendors, I can have external consultants that I work with, and we could now route for approval any document to any of those people. And what this will do is I'll say for approval, I want this to come back to me when it's done, but I can now send that to Dustin, and then he'll get an email from us that says you've been routed a document, and if he's never used us before, he'll create a username and password, and he'll have temporary access to just that one document, because I haven't given him security to anything else. The new ePortal DocRoute gives everyone that is in your current DocRoute setup access, where they can upload documents, they can do everything they could do in DocRoute today. But external people, you want to control that security. Can Dustin then create a route and send it back to me? Do I want to be able to upload documents back to me from the portal? Those are all things you can decide on whether or not they can do. But I've just routed it over to him, so he'll be able to then take that, do his approval on it, and it will come back to me. This is a module that gives you unlimited amount of users. So there's no worry about how many guys in the field do I have to worry about purchasing for. You buy it, you have it for everybody. So that unlimited user piece is really nice. It means you can really work with whoever you want. So I'm going to go ahead and log into my portal. And by the way, I have my screen kind of sized this way. I was showing someone earlier. This does work in smartphones, tablets, laptops, whatever. So on a smartphone, I can easily come over and let's say I'm viewing a credit card receipt that had been routed to me for approval. I can pull it up on my smartphone, view the credit card receipt, add my notes, and do my approval from a smartphone. I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger, though, for everyone on the screen here. This is our ePortal, and it's now the third module within our ePortal. We've always had the invoices approval on here, and we've always had the documents publishing, meaning I can take my direct deposits that my assistant automatically loaded into Paperless, fully coded, and then let my employees come in here and view those through the documents piece. That's just kind of a new thing we can do now with that my assistant and using the cloud. But now with the DocRoute, I can come over and view all my routes that have been done. Now, being a current user with full access, I can do everything. But again, you can limit who can create new routes from the web, who can upload documents. That's all customizable on how you want to do that. So let's say I do want to look at this credit card receipt. So I have my credit card receipt come up. I can zoom in and view the document as needed, check out my notes on it or add my own notes, look at who the recipients are and alter that if I had been given access to do so. But also, I can come over here and add in some other key things. I can upload more documents. What if actually I had a new receipt that I wanted to put in here to replace that one, or if I wanted to just add an additional document? I can take anything and just say, oh, yep, we're dragging that onto here too. So I'm putting in my new credit card receipt onto here that I've got, and I can edit this. So one of the new things is that you can fully save documents into the web and send them back. So if this is a new credit card receipt, I can specifically tell it this is a credit card receipt. And I can look over and view my vendor list out of Sage. So if I want to go to my, say, sort by bank, and it'll go Bank of America Visa, we'll add them onto here. I want the transaction date to be, I'll just pick some random date on here, doesn't matter. I think my date is back in 2015 in May, so I'm going to pick that date. And then I can go ahead and say this is for $10. And any other information I want to code on here. I can put jobs. This is fully customizable. It's fully allows you to put in whatever values you want. Now, I wouldn't say for credit card receipts, you're probably going to be using our eCapture app. It's really designed for credit card receipts and making credit card receipts fast. But think of all the other things we can do with this. If I'm sending this over to a project coordinator and he's out in the field and he's got a couple documents, maybe some daily field reports he filled out by hand or some safety reports he filled out by hand, he could take a picture of those with his smartphone and then upload those documents on here and either encode them out so that they can then be routed for approval to somebody else. So all this stuff can be done through the DocRoute ePortal. And, of course, I can do my normal things like approve it. And once that goes over, I can see all my different routes. I can also create routes. Now, there's a lot of things we can do with this. Again, I can do my DocuSign from here if I'm creating a new route. And I can say it's for approval. But think about what this can do. Besides just sending a new document to somebody, what if you wanted to take a picture of a wall that happens to have the electrical circuit a little bit too close to some piping? So you can say, subject, request for information, piping, and electrical. And I can put in my notes, too close, should I move them? I can then say, this is going to my project manager or whoever it is that I want to send this to. And I can take a picture and drop that file on here and then create. Now I've got a quick to-do RFI that I can send through the system and allow for people to do. So this is all now doable through this DocRoute piece. Okay, going back over into the main software, we're going to talk about probably the biggest change we've had in a long time, and that's our OCR. So let me give you a little bit of slide, and then we'll switch into looking at the software itself. Our OCR product is pretty robust, and the reason why it's pretty robust day one is that we didn't build this ourselves. We partnered with a company called Abby and brought in their FlexiCapture software in. Software's been out on the market for 20 years and is designed to read your documentation, whether that's invoices, change orders, receipts, you name it. Whatever documents you need to get read automatically and brought into Paperless or wherever you need to go, it can do. It has been around forever, and for that reason, it can do a lot of things. First thing, we can capture documents the same way we do in Paperless, but it can do it all automated as well. So if you want to have an inbox in your email monitored, and every time an invoice shows up into it, we can grab those invoices out and load them into the FlexiCapture software and then get them read. You can also watch folders. You can watch so many different things, and that will allow you to quickly get them into the system. Same thing as Paperless. I mean, there's no real change there other than it's different location. But here's where the keys start coming in. It starts scanning the information off of it and grabs all the header, footer, validates the data. Validates the data is a big key piece. We're not just reading the data and dumping it. Although if that's what you want, we can do it. We can just say read whatever it says there and bring it into Paperless with whatever it says, regardless of any validation. That's an option. But what if you want to say, hey, flag me, let me know if this invoice is for a vendor that I haven't created yet in my accounting database. It can be flagged and let you know. It can look at your tax rates and see if the tax rates match up to what it's seen there and let you know. If it's missing an invoice number, let me know. So it validates the data for you. We will be adding in our version 7 the PO matching portion here. It technically could do it today. We just haven't flipped the switch on there. So that is coming later this summer. But here's where the huge gains with OCR happen. These two pieces right here. And, of course, if you're in Europe, this one matters in the middle here too. But the on-the-fly training is huge. I'm going to show this here in just a second. This allows you to take a concept. Invoice is a concept. A purchase order is a concept. I say it's a concept because every vendor you've got does it differently. You know, and because of that, you don't want to sit down and create a template for every single vendor. That would just take forever, and especially get a new vendor, and then you got to create a new template, and then I got to stop and do it. Templates go away. You get rid of that whole concept with our OCR. Instead, we understand what an invoice looks like. We understand what a purchase order looks like. We understand what a change order would look like. Not by look like in a visual sense, but by, it's got key values on it. It's got key wording on it. It's got keys on that document. And what we'll do is we'll look for those keys. So it looks for things like invoice number, invoice date, INV number, INV pound sign, number, invoice. It looks for it, and then it finds the value somewhere around it. So it'll capture that. It'll then look for the buying address. If you have multiple departments or companies in your company, and each one pays their AP separate, we'll automatically look to see who the bill to was, match it up to your address, and make sure that it gets filtered over to the right company for payment. You don't have to do that manually anymore. You don't have to pre-collate your stuff anymore. We'll, of course, check your vendor. Is this vendor in your vendor database in Sage? And if not, flag you. If your vendors happen to have, this is solar technology, say there's 3 solar technologies you work with, and they're under ST1, 2, and 3 in your database. Well, we're not going to get stuck because we're going to look at the address and say, oh, this address matches ST1, use that one, or it matches a different one. So we'll actually check the addresses too and match it to your database to make sure we're reading the proper vendor. We can also do delivery dates, and eventually later this summer we'll have the purchase order data and line item distribution done too, where to literally iterate through it, verify your purchase order information to your POs, and bring that over automatically with quantities and everything like that. And of course, grab your total and currency. That's how it works. It's all set of that nature, and we have a key thing that allows you to train on the fly. So let's say for the shipping date, it was actually supposed to be grabbing the due date, but it grabbed the shipping date instead. It's an easy mistake. Easier mistakes are things like it says invoice number, but they put the number like way up here, so it's not close enough to be correlated with it. So you can literally say, oh, you grabbed this date, you cross it off, and you select appropriate date, and it will remember that. This is how we get away from doing templates. You don't have to go back and create a template. If a new vendor comes up or your vendor changes and it's all of a sudden grabbing stuff from the wrong location because the vendor doesn't have a standard looking invoice and it's got weird characters on it, well, you just got to say, nope, it's not there, it's there, and it remembers. And going forward, that vendor will now pick up in the correct spot. And you didn't have to go back to any configuration. You just did it right there in the software on the fly. And it works for any type of document too. So if you are doing purchase orders and that concept comes up too, you can have that happen. So just as a kind of last walkthrough, this captures all the information. It'll automatically classify that information and put your invoices in pile of invoices and your other documents in their categories. Because that last bullet point on that slide a little earlier was that we're not limited to invoices. You can build this out to capture any document. I've been working with a couple people who they're healthcare organizations in this case actually, where they've got stacks, boxes of medical records, medical records. I think they're explanation of benefits is the official title, but they've got stacks of these, 20 years worth, that are just sitting in a storage shed, and they need to get them digitized. So we're building it out to automatically read all the information they want off of them, and they're just going to start flowing them in through the system. And now that 20 years stuff will be automated. You don't have to have a human sitting there taking care of it. So you can do any type of documentation in the system you want to get set up. And this classify step does that. It figures out what is what, rotates pages that are supposed to be, figures out what are one-pagers, what are three-pagers. It does all that for you. And then extracts all the data off of it based on what you need. And then the first time you really need to deal with it is on the verification, and only if there's something to actually verify. Maybe we can't read if a 0 or an 8 is correct, and we need you to get a human's eyes on it because they're too closely smudged or something. Or your vendor's missing, and we want you to verify that. In my experience with this, about 90% of documents go through without being having to look at all. In fact, if you set things up appropriately, you're going to be at a 95% or higher, what we typically see. The only ones that you're verifying are the oddballs, the things that are smudged, the things that came over wrinkled and have a couple characters we want you to verify on, and, of course, new vendors that haven't hit your database yet, so you need to, of course, make them. So the verification stage really is only used in some cases when they're not a standard thing. And when it's all done, it exports this all right into Paperless so that you can take those invoices and start working with them. So I'll give you a very brief demo on this, if you can bear with me a second while I launch it. It's almost identical to what I've shown you on the screen. Here's how it works. Just like I said, it loads the images, it recognizes them, it runs verification for any characters that it needs to look at. So I'm going to actually go ahead and clear all my results and redo this process right in front of me. So as this is running through, figuring out what types of documents these are, and most people will have this running in the background while they're doing other work, they'll come in and say, oh, okay, we're ready for this invoice. It's read at 100% confidence, so I don't need to worry much about that one. This invoice here is also at 100% confidence. But leave this next one here, there we go, has a little bit of issue with it. Now, here's all I got to do is run verification. This is telling me that this period that it's showing on here is huge. We're pretty certain it's a period. That's what we put down, but can you verify it? And I can say, yes, that's confirmed, and that's confirmed. If you find things like this, we can actually set the sensitivity down so that you're not getting bothered by things that are obviously periods and commas and things like that. So we'll just turn the sensitivity down, and you won't be looking at that too often. But first, it verifies characters, and most machine-read characters are going to be at the 95% or greater confidence. And again, we can dial that even to 100% if you're getting a lot of the things the same. And then it just does exactly what I said earlier. It highlights the different sections that it's read, grabs the invoice number, the date, your vendor. It matches it to my vendor list. Here it is connecting to my Sage 100 contractor vendor database to find my Air vendor on there. Matched it up with the address. It grabs the invoice number, the date, and time. And again, mentioned earlier, if something goes up wrong, oh, that's not the right date, that's the right date. All I got to do is move it, and then it'll remember that next time around. And I can move it back if I made a mistake. That's all you have to do to train it. You don't have to go create templates. Just move it over, and then when it's all done, it exports over, and it becomes an invoice right here in Sage Paperless. In the Enter Invoices screen, you'll see them in the work in progress, ready to go to the next level. So with that, we've got, going back to our slide over here, with the 6.3, Dropbox integration added, DocuSign integration added right out of the box, the two new modules, DocRoute and in the cloud, and FlexiCapture. And again, for you Sage 300 folk who want to get documents automated out of Sage into the system, that's, again, AP checks, payroll direct deposits, PO subcontracts, anything that Sage prints, we can harness the power of my assistant to get those things plugged in right in here. So that's what's new in the system, and we'll do a Q&A here in just a second. One last, I'm going to call it a shameless plug, but we do have, for any of you current users of Sage Paperless or people who are thinking of becoming users of Sage Paperless, we do have coming up here very shortly our next two user conferences. So similar to TUG, although we're not that big, you can come in Dallas in 2 weeks, or a week and a half now at this point, I think. You can come out and meet other users of Sage Paperless. We'll go over all the stuff coming out for later this year, go over roadmaps, advanced features and functionality, some training classes, things like that. So you can get the most out of the software that you're using today, or learn about the software more if you, again, are really close to looking at getting it and you want to get more hands-on with everything. So Dallas is coming up, and then we have Orlando in September 11th. The San Diego show was a big success last month, actually. So I thank everyone who attended that who might be on this call today. Enough with the shameless plug. Let's get into the question and answer phase. Again, my email address is vincentp@paperlessenvironments.com. So if there's anything I can't answer and it's a technical question, please feel free to email me. If you have any questions about pricing or want to set up any demos, feel free to email the CRE sales or the kahu.io@sage.com, and they can get you guys set up there. So at this point, let me pull up my chat and Q&A, and let's see what we've got out there. Okay, so span that out. So kind of start the bottom here. It looks like Kahu answered some of these already. Kahu, would you mind asking me the questions that are still outstanding, and we'll do it that way.
Absolutely. One of the questions was, how are the subcontractors given ePortal account? Is it done automatically, or do we have to set each of them up as an ePortal web user?
Yeah, great question. So it depends on what you want them to do. If you're just wanting to send them stuff and they can only approve or modify what you send them and nothing else, you could add their email on the fly, like when you saw me add Dustin Howell earlier. You can just add their email on the fly, and it will remember. So the next time, you just pick them from the list, and you just do that. Now, if you actually want them to be a full participant besides just the documents you send them, meaning you want them to be able to upload documents back to you, new ones, or create their own routes, then yes, you would create them as a user of the ePortal in your system. So it just depends on how much security you want to give them, whether or not you're going to officially set them up as a user in the system, or if you're just going to send it to them on the fly.
Thank you, Vincent. One of the other questions that came up was, will you present the AP workflow today? I have AP and admins on the presentation. We would like to look at that in this product.
Would probably be best to serve at another time based on what we were covering today on this presentation. If you could email Kaohu there in the email in the center, we'll get you. He'll get you set up there. We do have some recorded demonstrations from earlier this month or last month, so we can get you anything you guys need to look at that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vincent. I was just about to say that. So if a lot of the information you found today interesting, if you currently don't have Paperless, definitely reach out to me and the sales team, and we can definitely set you over the demonstration specifically for your company and answer all those questions. And from what I can see, those were, more at the top here, hold on. How well does the OCR handle handwritten invoices? Can it do verification of totals?
So that is going to be dependent upon the handwriting of the person doing it. In my tests, I have seen it be about 70% accurate with handwriting. And again, it can be way worse or way higher depending upon how nice they write. But 70% seems to be about the average for handwriting on there. The main reason, of course, is that everyone's handwriting style is different. We're going to do our best to read what they wrote down. And being that this is the ICR, as they call it, that does the handwriting style, has been around for years, it's gotten pretty good. That's why I'm at 70% on handwriting, whereas other softwares out there are like 70% with, digital stuff. But it still needs human eyes a lot of times. The verification, that section on the right where it showed the confidence level, it's not the 95, 96% you saw when you run a digital version. It's about 65 to 75% in there. But it can do totals. It can add up those numbers. The nice thing about the OCR product is that it can do a lot of stuff. The other thing about the OCR product is it does so much that it's hard for me in a single presentation to show it all to you. But the concepts are this. It has the ability to be programmed to read the data and then to take action upon that data before it sends it over to the next level, meaning subtotals. It can total up numbers and then say if these three numbers don't add up to the fourth number, then flag it and let you know. It can do a whole lot of stuff. We just need to configure it to your needs. So if you have a specific document that you want us to look at, that you have a lot of, that you want us to verify, please email that to Kahu and myself, Vincent P., and we'll see what we can do. I'll have our consultant team look at it, analyze it, and let you know what is possible.
Thank you, Vincent. Another question was, are there any demonstrations out on YouTube? You can definitely Google that as far as different demonstrations for Paperless out there on YouTube. Again, if you would like one kind of fine-tuned for your specific company's needs and questions, definitely reach out to the sales team at the information above or myself to get that scheduled. Other than that, that's all I could see, Vincent.
All right. Well, then in that case, I do thank everyone for attending. These What's New presentations don't necessarily take up the full hour, so I'll give you guys 20 minutes back, maybe take an early lunch. There's all the information on the screen. We'll leave it up here for another 30 seconds or so for you guys to look at. And again, if any other questions pop into your mind, please email any one of those there, and we'll make sure the right person gets you back. So thank you, Ko, for setting this all up.
My pleasure, Vincent. And again, we'll hang out here for about 30 more seconds and make sure that everyone has the contact information above. And keep an eye out for my email, as I'll be sending out a copy of the recording from today, as well as our contact information, in case you need to get a hold of us for any questions, pricing, quotes, etc. And with that, I'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you, Vincent.